Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to Waseca Votes. This is our first debate in a series of 3. We hope you're going to enjoy this evening. First of all, I want to go over the rules of engagement, if you will, so that everyone has a clear understanding of how this debate is going to work. So what we'll start with is opening remarks from each of our candidates. And then our moderator, Mr. Hanson, will ask each of the candidates multiple questions on a rotating basis. Each of them will have 1.5 minutes to respond, and after they have answered the question proposed by the moderator, then the opponents will be given 1.5 minutes for a rebuttal if needed. The questions you're going to be asked this evening have been put together by the members of the Chamber of Commerce's Legislative Committee, some of whom are seated on the stage this evening. There will be 5 to 6 questions asked this evening during the first round of questionings. After the first round, we'll have a recess for about 10 minutes. Members of our assembly, you are each given a card in your programs where you then can ask a question of the candidates. Our ushers will collect those questions, and our panel will then bring them up, look through them, and figure out which questions will be asked. Our timekeeper will keep track of the response. After 1 minute is up, the timekeeper will raise a yellow card, signaling that you have 1/2 minute until the gavel is sounded and your microphones will be silenced. At any point during the question and answer period of this debate, if either of the candidates veers off of the question, the moderator will interrupt you and bring you back to the question. Your time will not be yielded back to you. During our debate, proper decorum is important to create an atmosphere that is appropriately formal and encourages order. During the debate, we ask that you hold your applause, ladies and gentlemen, until after the question has been asked and answered, and then the rebuttal given. Any outbursts or uncongenial verbalizations will be met with we asking you to leave the auditorium. It is truly our hope that you will walk away this evening with a clear understanding of where each of the candidates on stage stands on a variety of issues. So with that, please enjoy yourselves. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's great to have you here, Mr. Zimmerman, Mr. Madson. My name is John Hanson, as stated before. I teach here at the high school, American Government, and CIS, University of Minnesota Political Science class. My students are a part of this program as well, and we are grateful for this collaboration and excited about this opportunity to participate tonight. And again, thanks for being here. I ask your forgiveness in advance. I'm fighting a bit of a cold, but I did not want to miss the opportunity to be here. So my voice might be a little bit odd, but that's okay. People are here for you and to hear what you have to say tonight. So we tossed a coin earlier, and the decision was made and the choices were made to begin our opening statements, and it's a 3-minute opening statement, and we'll begin with Mr. Zimmerman. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank you, Mr. Hanson, and your class for once again facilitating these debates, and thank you to the Chamber and their committee for now participating as well with these debates. And I want to thank the community and that has supported me so far, and for those that are here in the audience tonight. My name is Randy Zimmerman. And I was born and raised in Waseca, and my family has a long storied history in the community. And I've been married to my wife, who we are both graduates of Waseca High School. We've been married for 26 years, and we have 4 children. And I've been involved with community leadership and service to the community most of my adult life. Whether it's through working with the band program for 18 years. I think I'm in my 18th season, I believe. And coaching softball and coaching volleyball. And I served 10 years on the school board as elected to the school board. And so I've served my church as a stewardship chair and have been a worship leader with music for at least 15 years, I believe. So it's kind of a passion of mine. I believe in servant leadership, and I take that very seriously. Why I'm running for a re-election? I'm running for re-election as mayor to continue with the progress that we've made with moving the city of Waseca forward. And the main goals of that is growth and tax dilution. Let's see, what else do I have? Based on the feedback that I've gotten and the partnerships that I've created and the relationships that I've formed, I feel like I have had a positive impact so far on the community, and I guess I just want to continue that process and that progress for the community because I believe in it, and I think the best days for Waseca are not too far off. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Madson, you have 3 minutes.
I'm Milton Madson. I'm 37. I was born and raised here in Waseca. I graduated in '05. I have 2 kids that are here in the junior high school. I enjoy the community. I'm running for mayor to help the city grow to its full potential and hopefully bring more businesses and people to the community.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to our first question, and this question begins with Mr. Zimmerman. And a reminder, you have a minute and a half to respond, and then an opportunity for rebuttal if you choose to when it comes back to you. This first question is related to streets and construction projects. So with the city investing in street construction projects and an aging infrastructure, how do you plan to prioritize capital improvements that will happen in the future while also balancing the challenges that come with a city's fiscal responsibilities? So balancing construction projects that are needed with the challenge of a city budget being managed as well. We'll begin with Mr. Zimmerman.
Sure. Good question. I think in order to reduce tax increases, which the city is now currently looking at a 5.2% increase in the levy, in the tax rate for the levy, and have a steady and consistent financial plan, we must be able to differentiate costs versus investments and maximize our return on all of our expenditures. The city also needs to be a willing participant and partner to grow with developers and investors. The city needs to be able to create a spark to make something happen. An ideal situation, the city would just have a set comprehensive plan with design standards and so on and so forth. But in the situation that we're in and the lack of growth that we've had for the last several years, we definitely need to help facilitate those investments. So, thank you.
Mr. Madson.
The balancing priorities.
Balancing street construction projects and our infrastructure with the challenge of also managing the city's budget.
Well, we'd have to go with the more prioritize where we need it more, and then trying to bring in businesses would help offset the taxes, and the people would want to come here instead of the surrounding areas, which would help offset the tax increases in order to get the more roads and the infrastructure that we need. And try and create or help with partnerships and try and find people to bring and just listen to what the community says, because it's really more about what they want, and bringing them and trying to find a balance of where their priorities along with everybody else's and finding a happy medium there.
Mr. Zimmerman, a rebuttal?
The only thing that I would add is that we can't keep the proof is in the pudding is the ConAgra project. That project even with all the tax abatements, and everything that was offered to them to keep them in town, with the tax abatement in place that will go off in, I think it's 10 years or so, it already added $300,000 to a $5.2 million levy. So that's proof in itself that growth in our industrial and commercial base will help dilute our tax base and take the burden off of city residents and individual property owners. So, we just have to look at the difference between a cost and an investment, and that's a cultural change, but it's happening, but it needs to continue to happen.
Mr. Madson.
I'm good.
Okay, very good. So our second question is the important issue of addressing housing in Waseca. So the question goes to you first, Mr. Madson. How will you balance the need for housing while maintaining the city's tax base and infrastructure investment needs?
So balancing can you repeat that?
Balancing the need for housing
All right.
while also maintaining the city's tax base and infrastructure investment.
Well, we have plenty of properties around that would help with housing, but it does not seem to be building anything on there. And if we brought more in, the people around here are looking to the other cities because that's where most of the businesses are. So they're not coming here to bring in the building to the housing and that kind of thing. And like numbers wise, I can't really comment on that or anything because I don't know exactly where the budgets and everything are at.
Okay. Mr. Zimmerman.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure will. Balancing the need for housing while maintaining the city's tax base and infrastructure investments.
Okay, so basically, the city had a housing study done, and if I remember correctly, the study realized that we need about 300 new rooftops, one way or the other, whether that's through apartment buildings, single-family houses, townhouses, whatever. 300 new rooftops. That's what we need according to this housing study. That in itself will also help, again, spread out the tax base and dilute the tax base, if that makes sense. And furthermore, as far as the funding of that and balancing that, it does create a burden on our existing tax base. So what I have done, and I did from the get-go back 2 Januaries ago, was I started the lobbying process at the state level, which according to my sources hasn't happened in 40 years, and that's what I plan on doing. And we did get almost $3 million from the federal government already to help with those infrastructure costs. So my intention is to bring as much tax money back that we pay in to our community.
Mr. Madson, an opportunity for rebuttal if you care to.
I don't have any rebuttal.
Okay. Mr. Zimmerman?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You two are easy to work with. Our next question relates to not a shocking bit of news that Waseca has a tendency to be wet at times. And this last June experienced, much like many communities, very tough decisions on how to deal with how we manage our water. And unfortunately, like many communities, the decision had to be made to discharge sewage into Clear Lake. That doesn't happen frequently, but it also isn't super rare when we're in wet seasons. So the question is, as mayor, what specific strategies, and we begin with you, Mr. Zimmerman, I apologize. As mayor, what specific strategies and plans will you implement to mitigate the city's issues with flooding and improve our sewer management systems?
Yes, definitely a huge issue. And the city and our staff and our resources that we consult with, our engineering consulting firms, are looking at a lot of that. At the rate that this, again, it goes back to trying to get more funds back into the community that we have paid out to this, whether it's to the state level or the federal level. We need those funds back here desperately to help pay for those. We're looking at issues that are, and problems that are 15, 20, 50, 100 years old. So it's going to take a little bit of time to do. But at the rate that we're going, without going out and seeking other resources from the state and the federal governments, by the time we might get something fixed, it's going to have to go back and start the process all over again. So with some of the projects that we are looking at currently, we have a great opportunity to potentially make some huge headway into alleviating those issues. And I can get into specifics if you want, but I'll wait because my time's up.
Okay. Mr. Madson?
We always look into it. I mean, it's been going on for years. It's trying to get the funding. You'd have to look for grants and stuff. I mean, I don't personally know all the logistics of what all that includes and the types of grants and all that you need to do it, but we always look into trying to help out because the community obviously doesn't like when they can't use Clear Lake or Loon Lake for those times, and then it kind of deters people from coming in to the community because they hear of the sewage and stuff going into the lake. So it's always something to look at and try and figure out. I would have to see everything to know where that all stands.
Mr. Zimmerman?
I think it also comes, I neglected to mention the idea of creating partnerships. Again, creating partnerships with our county, our county commissioners and the county staff, and along with our state legislators, which I have already done. And it's a matter of being resourceful and being strategic and seizing on the opportunities that are presented to you to make these really, honestly, there's potentially a historic fix for some of these water issues. And unfortunately, they've been deemed controversial, but they're not really controversial, but they're quite opportunistic and could be greatly beneficial for the entire community if we just allow our staff and allow our consultants to do their work.
Okay. Mr. Madson?
I'm good.
Okay. Our next question will be submitted from one of the members of our panel, a student of mine for my CIS political science class.
What qualities of life experiences do you feel most qualify you for the position of mayor?
That is Braden Hoof. He is one of my students. And Mr. Madson, you get to answer that first. What qualities and life experiences do you feel most qualify you for the position of mayor?
Throughout my life, I've had to deal with a lot of diversity and listening and accepting help. I've had many back surgeries and stuff, and I had to navigate around that and find better ways to move and ask people for help and be a leader in that kind of situation to keep moving forward. I've had to learn how to walk 3 times, and I think I'm doing pretty well, and just keep trying to move forward and bring things forward along and people with me, and not asking for help is all right, and not just trying to do everything for ourselves and get that done.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Well, thank you for the question, Braden. With my educational experience and my work experience and my service to the community, my degree is in construction management, which is a leadership position. I have a minor in business administration, which dives into leadership, very close to having a degree in urban and regional studies. And I studied community leadership. My work with the with the coaching and instructing for as many years. I've provided leadership for those programs. Again, with my church, I've provided leadership there. I was board chair for 8 of the 10 years that I was on the school board, so I provided leadership there. And now I've been mayor for 1.5 years, providing leadership with our city in another capacity. So I feel like I'm pretty well versed in the role of leadership. The key to leadership is being selfless and doing it for the right reasons and for the greater good. And I think anyone that knows me can attest to that.
Mr. Madson?
Nothing really, I guess.
Okay. And Mr. Zimmerman? Okay.
Thank you.
So this next question is a little unique, and it's not going to involve a rebuttal, and it actually, the committee wanted to tailor the question in such a way because of the unique situation that each of you is in individually. And so we'll begin with Mr. Zimmerman, and the committee would like you to respond to this, and there will not be a rebuttal period to this, and you will get this question, and you will get a question, Mr. Madson, that specifically relates to your circumstance. The committee would like you to respond, Mr. Zimmerman, if you are convicted of felony perjury or a lesser crime, should you remain in office? Why or why not?
I would say absolutely, because according to my attorney and other people that I've spoken with, it doesn't actually disqualify you from holding office. So that decision would be left up to the voters. And again, for those that elected me the first time and those that elected me under the school board 3 times, they know where I'm at. They know where my heart is. They know what my intentions are. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm following through with my intentions. I have a brand new $300,000 house sitting in town. So that's what I got to say about that. Otherwise, I can't talk about it.
Mr. Madson, your question specific to your somewhat unique situation is that current councilor Jeremy Conrath is your cousin, and Ward 2 candidate Gary Conrath is your uncle. Can you speak to how, in the event, if you were elected, that all 3 of you on the council could keep yourselves from violating the open meeting and serial meeting laws that exist for members of a council when they're not together in a formal meeting?
We just, I guess, not going through with the meetings, or when we get together, we kind of, family-wise, we don't try and be family, not talk about work or politics or any of that, because a lot of the family don't agree with some of the other stuff, so it keeps it a little more peaceful if we just kind of keep everything separate from work and politics and all that, from just getting together and being a normal family.
Okay, thank you for cooperating with that somewhat unique situation, but yet valuable. So thanks for that. The next question will come from a member of our panel.
Hello, my name is Dr. Jay Bolfer. I'm on the Waseca Legislative Community, so thank you for putting this all together. Both of you, thank you for coming and taking our questions, and thank you to the audience for coming and showing up and supporting. Don't worry, you can rest easy. There's no healthcare questions here. My question is, what strategies do you propose to foster economic growth that benefits residents, specifically when it comes to job creation and supporting local business, sorry.
Thank you, Jay. That question begins with Mr. Madson.
So try and talk to businesses around the area, or ones that are looking for building new, and try and talk them in and see what we can work with to bring the business here and cooperate with them. And might have to do some things that would help. And if you have more businesses around there, community and people around the community will want to stay here more, so they won't have to go outside and go to Wotana or Mankato in order to look for jobs, and it'll help the small businesses around because it'll also bring the families of the other employees and stuff that aren't from around here for the businesses. It'll help bring them into the community.
Thank you. Mr. Zimmerman.
Growth. Yeah, that's pretty much where I've been from the get-go on this whole thing. And how do we achieve it? I created my business by cold calling. And I've been successful at that for 24 plus years. And I think along with that is working with our city staff, giving them direction. That's our role as a council and mayor, is to give staff direction. And again, creating partnerships. And we need to market Waseca. But first and foremost, we need to have the infrastructure available and ready. Just within the last year to 18 months, we have missed out on countless opportunities. One employer was, I believe, was going to provide over 300 jobs. And we missed out on that because our infrastructure isn't properly prepared for it. And had we done the work that we needed to do 4, 6, 8, 10 years ago, we'd be having a different story, or a different discussion. So,
Mr. Madson, anything to add to yours?
No.
Mrs. Zimmerman, another minute and a half.
Sure, I'm going to take it. Yeah, I think the best growth that we can have is I'm always fascinated to look back at the history of Waseca, and the best and most successful businesses that became international companies were all homegrown. Whether it's Herter's, Brown's, E.F. Johnson, Winnegar's, Corcoran's, etc. I would love nothing more than to be able to provide opportunities for gentlemen like Mr. Bulfer here with the question to and more of those graduates that went off to college or even stayed here and just worked, either way, but to come back and give them a reason to come back. And speaking of Mr. Bulfer, there's a lot of other professional positions in our community that we have that are aging out and will be retiring soon. And my question is, who's going to replace them? And I think there's an opportunity for us to have more of that, but we need to provide those opportunities, and that's the best growth that we can have, in my opinion. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. That ends the portion of our prepared questions. The audience will now, during this next 10-minute break, for you to catch your breath. The audience can submit a question, and those will be collected and sorted through, and we'll ask some of those questions in the next few minutes. So go ahead and take a break and catch your breath for about 10 minutes.
So what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, is Anna in the back will be picking up any questions you may have. She will deliver them to the panel. The panel will discuss those questions, put them together, and our moderator will ask them. So Anna.
All right, welcome back. We'll go ahead and begin. Thank you, gentlemen, again, for your participation, and thanks to those in the audience who submitted questions. I have in my hand 5 that the panel has submitted that they would like you to address. And we'll begin this next question. Mr. Zimmerman, it's your turn to begin first. And I'm going to do my best to kind of summarize this. In past years, discussions have been brought about having a joint or combined law enforcement between Waseca County Sheriff's Office and the Waseca PD. The question is, the two would be combined in terms of law enforcement in the city and area. Do you have an opinion on this? And how do you feel about it? Do you see that as something worth pursuing or looking into? In general, what are your thoughts on a combined law enforcement between Waseca County Sheriff and Waseca PD?
Sure. I guess I would preface it by saying that I'm always willing to entertain efficiencies, and partnerships and collaboration. With that said, law enforcement, I'm not well versed in law enforcement for the most part, as far as their ratios and their hierarchy in leadership. So, but if the sheriff's department and the Waseca Police Department came and presented a plan to facilitate something like that, I would entertain it, absolutely. But it has to work for them. I think the bottom line is public safety and what's best for the community. And as far as I know, just again, within the last 18 months, we have hired on, I think, 3 or 4 new officers. So I'm definitely interested in a robust public safety apparatus.
Mr. Madson?
Guess just kind of partial to it because I don't know the logistics of it, and would be open to seeing what, if it's obviously more efficient or would help either or of the departments out, or what would make it better. And obviously, again, like the public safety was the number one. So if it creates a safer community around not just Waseca, but the county and stuff, would also help. Because without like seeing how it helps or the business type plan of it, I can't really for sure comment of which way I would lean on that.
A rebuttal?
No, other than the 2 departments would have to determine what's best for them and know that it would be a long-term commitment. It wouldn't be something like for 4 years or even 8 years. It would have to be a fundamental change in our local and countywide law enforcement. So that's a big endeavor. But yeah, I would entertain it. As far as I'm concerned, the Waseca community is much larger than the city limits. So I'll just leave it at that.
Mr. Madson?
Pretty much just the same, I guess.
Okay. Next question, submitted from our audience, deals with absentee landlords, and we'll begin with you, Mr. Madson. How do you propose to deal with absentee landlords who leave buildings vacant, and related to that, in general, dealing with vacant storefront, vacant buildings? Do you have ideas or thoughts on how a city ought to approach that issue?
Just maybe try and work with them and see if there's any other businesses or people around that might want to combine the open spaces into something, or move forward and be open to ideas of, and try and help them find someone that would help come in, or just even make it look more presentable to have people come in and want to use them spaces. And if bringing them in and opening that up would also help bring in people from around the communities, other communities, and want to make them more operable and that.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Well, I'm an architect and an architect by trade and profession, so I'm a visual guy. I would lead us towards having some consistent design standards, and that are enforced consistently, whether it's through code enforcement or and we do have code enforcement, and we have a new code enforcement officer. So, and we want to hold people accountable, right? So I think based off of our city code and our design standards, I think it's only fair, because the blight unfortunately does affect others. So yeah, I think it's okay and good to consistently uphold those codes that are in place.
Anything to add to your previous answer?
No.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Our next question submitted, and we've alluded to it a little bit earlier, but let's specifically focus on how to deal best with Clear and Loon Lake. And we'll begin this question with Mr. Zimmerman. The question is, are there any plans, or what might be your plans, to deal with the pollution in Clear and Loon Lake?
Well, again, it goes back to infrastructure and the funding for that infrastructure, and the thinking a little bit outside of the box and seizing the opportunities for those remedies. And it's not, there's no one answer, no silver bullet, but to get into a specific, there's an opportunity with the Gator Lake project to open up and on an adjacent property for a quite large retention pond that we could divert stormwater to through, I believe it's the 15-1 ditch or 15-2 ditch, and that would help alleviate a lot of the water issues, not only for the south half of the community or the south half of the city, but potentially the north half as well. And that's a bit of an undertaking, and but it would be a significant and huge solution for us for Clear Lake, and the whole watershed runs west to east. So yes, absolutely.
Mr. Madson.
So just the pollution of the
question asks, are there any plans, or what might be your plans, to deal with the pollution in Clear and Loon Lake?
Yes, just there's not one way to just solve everything, but just look at the infrastructure and try and find new ways or other advance or help the current system be better other than the way it's going, without seeing the whole plans or if there's anything in or set forth now. It's kind of hard to comment on if there's a plan going forward. But obviously I would like to not have the pollution in the lakes and try and solve in any means possible with still not raising taxes or making any burdens on any other people.
Mr. Zimmerman, anything to add to your previous answer?
No, other than the fact that I have to commend the county for the work that they've done in purchasing the weed harvester. The city has partnered with them a little bit on that as well. That has been making a dent in the Clear Lake so far, so good. But yes, so to really answer the questions, there are solutions being discussed and plans being discussed, and I would like to think that I have been helping to push that along. That's what leaders do.
Mr. Madson?
Nothing.
Okay. Next question, and we'll begin with you on this one. The city of Waseca has most recently devoted quite a bit of time and energy and discussion to the Gator Lake circumstance and the project related to Gator Lake. This particular person would like to know where you stand and where you see the best possible solution related to the Gator Lake issue.
Yeah, can't 100% say without knowing the logistics and complete part of it, but with developing it, from what I understand, the city would be paying for developing it and making new lots and that. But with nothing coming in, there's nothing for certain to make sure that it sells or that anything it would help or benefit. And this time, I'm not saying that later on it might not be a bad thing to develop and have the lots and that available. But without bringing anything or having anything here to want people to move in with an empty lot, there's no real reason. And from what I understand, there's the farmers renting the land. So if you develop that, and that would take away the income from that without any for certain income coming in.
Mr. Zimmerman.
I am absolutely in favor of developing not only the Gator Lake property as it's been dubbed, but any and everywhere else around town that we can make something happen. In particular, the Gator Lake project, as it sits, that property is valued at $600,000. If it's fully developed, when it's fully developed, it'll be at a value of $24 million. Imagine what that does to our tax base. That's significant. And the investment, not the cost, but the investment from the city would be approximately around $1 million. We would generate that, that would be paid for in less than 10 years per our financial consultant that took a look at it. And anything after that goes into our general levy for the foreseeable future. So you can say you want growth, but do you? If you actually, you have to support growth if you want growth. And as it sits right now, because of the precarious situation that the community or the city is in, developers, whether it's Waseca or Mankato or Otana or anywhere else, will not partner or will not develop without partnership from the city and local government. It's just a fact.
Mr. Madson, anything you'd like to add?
I mean, obviously I'd like growth, and there's other places around Waseca that are already developed and stuff for them to come in. But as of right now, I can't say definitively either side of what, but as of right now, I don't see where this lot sitting benefits and will take taxes away from the other community members.
Mr. Zimmerman, anything you'd like to add?
It's simple math as far as I'm concerned. And nobody gets a return on their investment before they make the investment. Like that, I've never heard of anyone being like, "Hey, I just made $10,000 on an investment that I'm going to make tomorrow." It doesn't happen. You have to make the investment, and it's always a risk. There's always risk involved, but if it's well thought out and well researched, hopefully you'll get that return.
Okay, one more question, our last question. This question relates to speed limits in and around the edge of Waseca, and it's referencing specifically the speed limit just beyond, just north of the stoplight, and I'm pointing out at Walmart right now, just beyond Walmart. And the question references the question about the idea of changing the speed limits in and around Waseca. But let's kind of package that this way. How best do you think you as a mayor should facilitate those kind of decision making? How should that go about? And what would you do as a mayor, say in this example, to deal with the best way to go about making a decision as the mayor to change something like that, whether it's traffic related, speed limit related, or whatever it might be? And you can use a specific example of speed limit, or you could use any decision. How, as the mayor, should you lead in such a way to make that decision process healthy? Sorry, that was very wordy, but I just wanted to make that fit in that package of the person's request. So we will begin that with Mr. Zimmerman.
Okay, well, I appreciate that question because we actually discussed this just within the last year by request, and we did get a report from MnDOT because unfortunately, MnDOT has jurisdiction with that because it is a state highway, and their findings are that it's a non-issue. I personally disagree with that because, but you know, again, there's a difference between being proactive and reactive, and I don't think that we need to wait for another catastrophe to happen if we don't have to. So We haven't talked about, I can't remember when that was that we talked about it, but it's been a few months. But as far as I'm concerned, if the city has the ability to put and adjust the speed limit there, I would be in favor of doing it, that site specifically. There's certain rules and laws that supersede state laws, and that might be one of them. I believe it is, actually.
Okay. Mr. Madson?
So yeah, I would be in favor of changing it because it goes from 55 right by that stoplight. I mean, kind of hard to slow down, especially when you're coming over a hill and you're not, especially if you're not from around here, you don't know that it changes right there. So I'd be in favor of that, but obviously we'd have to work with MnDOT and that if it's their jurisdiction, and that it can't just change it for, yeah, go have to go through the, but I'd be in favor of making that a lot safer area to be.
Mr. Zimmerman, excuse me, anything you'd like to add to that?
Nope.
Okay. Mr. Madson, back to you. Anything you'd like to add?
Nope.
Okay. Very good. So we're going to finish, excuse me, with a closing statement. And based on the whole coin flip that happened earlier, we're going to have a minute and a half for a closing statement. And I'll remind you that the closing statement is focused on you. And we want it to be your sales pitch about you, not your opponent, but about you. So we'd like for a minute and a half to convince the voters why you are worthy of this office. So we'll begin with you, Mr. Madson.
I'm running for the office to be a spokesperson for the community and help grow the community and listen to everybody and not just what I want or what this person wants. Try to bring a happy medium to the town and help it grow and be the good city that it could be. And just giving you an option, try and be one of the younger ones to be that middle ground of the older generation and the younger generation, try and bring everybody together.
Thank you. Mr. Zimmerman?
Again, thank you for facilitating. Thank you to the chamber as well. Thank you, Mikhail. And thank you to the panel and the audience. Much like the election 2 years ago, and I think the reason I got elected was that this comes down to growth for the community, and being serious about that growth and being serious about alleviating the high tax rate. Right now our tax rate is 78%, but 3 or 4 years ago the tax rate was 92%. And the reason that has come down is a lot to do with ConAgra and through some attrition and efficiencies that the city staff has found. But with that, it comes down to growth, and I want to continue the work that we've done. I've created some good relationships and partnerships with several stakeholders, and let's see, what else do I have? Just those that know me know where I'm at and what my intentions are, and I'm serious about getting the work done. If we don't want growth, I'm not your guy. So, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate your participation tonight. This is a very valuable project, a very valuable process, and we are so grateful that you were here tonight. Also thankful for many people that contributed behind the scenes to make this work. I want to make you aware that the debates can be viewed via the Chamber's website and Chamber YouTube page, as well as Waseca School District's webpage. Those should be up relatively soon, within the next 24 to 48 hours. Again, thanks to our candidates, thank you to our audience, and thanks for your support of the Waseca Votes debate program.